Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Brian Keene's Secret Histories. I am Brian Keene. In this series, we take my cheap little iPhone with my shaky one hand and we sit on the floor in my office and we go through my books in the order that they were written and published, and we talk about them. I told you in the previous videos that preceded this, it was either for Entombed or The Rising Deliverance. I told you that the timeline gets a little confusing with The Damned Highway. And as you can see, we are today talking about The Damned Highway. At this point in our video series, we are in what I refer to as phase 3 of my career. The Damned Highway was actually written during phase 2. But it was not published until phase 3. As I recall, to the best of my memory, started Damned Highway around the same time I was working on Clickers 3 with J.F. Gonzalez, and finished it around the time that I finished A Gathering of Crows. It was co-written with Nick Mamatas. Now, let's talk about that last name, first of all. Nick is a dear friend. I love him to death. Very, very few people can make me laugh the way Nick can. He's also one of the smartest people I know. This collaboration was a joy. It was nothing but fun, and I am so proud of this book. But I said Nick Mamatas. I've known Nick 25 years, I think. And I used to always say Nick Mamatas, because I'm an Appalachian hillbilly. I'm told it's Mamatas. I don't know which it is because Nick has never corrected me on it. I will probably use both in this video, and I apologize to all of my Greek friends for that. But yeah, this was a joy to write. Even though it was being written at a point when, as you know from previous videos, everything was falling apart, this was fun. The idea stemmed from this book right here, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 72 by the great Hunter S. Thompson, one of my all-time favorite writers. Indeed, when it comes to non-genre fiction and nonfiction, because he wrote both, Hunter S. Thompson is by far my favorite author. He's on my Mount Rushmore, to be sure. This book is a collection of articles and essays and random thoughts he had while covering the presidential campaign between Richard Nixon and George McGovern. This book often gets overlooked. Thompson, of course, will always be known for Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Hell's Angels, my personal favorite novel by him, The Rum Diary. But this is absolutely one of his best. And if you have any interest in politics at all, or American history, I do urge you to read this book. Now, I know who my audience is, right? It's not a horror novel. What are you doing, Brian? Why would you recommend this? Just trust me. It's such a good book. But what Nick and I wanted to do was, our idea was that there were chapters that the government or the Cthulhu cult or somebody cut out of this. They were blacklisted. They were excised. The Damned Highway is supposed to be the missing chapters of Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 72. But we have to write it in a way that it's accessible to readers who have never read this book. Not only that, we have to write it in a way that's accessible to people who've never read Hunter S. Thompson. And we have to write it in a way that it's accessible to people who have no familiarity with H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. And we have to do it in a way that is respectful to Thompson's legacy, to his loved ones, and to his estate. We didn't have permission to write Hunter S. Thompson as a character in this book. So we open, and it says right here on the back, January 1972. Resenting his unexpected fame and suffering from severe writer's block, America's premier gonzo journalist decides to reinvent himself. He creates a new persona, Uncle Lano. There it is. We don't have to call him Hunter. He's doing this under a pseudonym. And we should point out, all of this is written in first person. Winter in Woody Creek, Colorado. It is just after midnight on January 5th, 1972, and this is when the fun begins. They call this the wee hours, but there's nothing small about the hours between midnight and dawn. These hours last forever. Each one as long and endless as the black gulf between the stars. As I pound the keys, the ticking of the clock syncs with the world's heartbeat, and the rapid-fire staccato of my typewriter slows. Each breath is an eternity. These are not wee hours. These hours are larger than life. I wrote that first chapter. And let me tell you something. The bookstore shelves and the internet are littered with people trying to write like Hunter S. Thompson. I knew going in that I could not write like Hunter S. Thompson, that it would be disrespectful to write like Hunter S. Thompson, but I had to give it my fucking best try. And that's exactly what I did. No. Is it Hunter S. Thompson? No. And people say, oh, they're trying to sound like Hunter S. Thompson. Well, yeah, because, this character is based on him. But I'm proud of the voice that we achieved, Nick and I. If you've ever read his solo fiction or my solo fiction, we have two very distinct different voices. I mean, we are night and day as far as literary style goes, as far as author's voice goes. But we managed to meld it pretty fucking seamlessly for this book. It doesn't hurt that both of us are huge fans of Hunter S. Thompson. It also doesn't hurt that both of us are huge fans of the Cthulhu mythos. The premise of the book is that Uncle Lano, the main character, decides to go in search of the American nightmare. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas recounts Hunter S. Thompson's search for the American dream. We decided that Uncle Lano would go searching for the American nightmare. He does this on a road trip. He does it undercover, taking Greyhound buses and things of that nature. And what he discovers is that Richard M. Nixon is a pawn of Cthulhu and the great old ones. And if he gets into power, it's going to start the beginning of the end times. I can't stress enough how proud I am of this book. I think it's one of the best things that Nick or myself have ever written. It's probably one of the least read books from either of our bibliographies. And I don't know why that is. I know we have very different audiences. Maybe his audience is like, oh, he did something with Brian Keene. I don't want to read that. Maybe my audience was like, oh, he did something with Nick. I don't want to read that. I don't know. But I really wish y'all would check this one out if you haven't. It's a good book. It's funny. It's insightful. It's very political. And it was so much fun. It was a joy to write this with Nick. One of the best experiences I've ever had as a writer. The first edition to be published was this one by Dark Horse. They found this Ralph Steadman-esque cover, which was absolutely perfect for this edition. The subtitle, Fear and Loathing in Arkham. One thing I want to point out is the end of the book. We meant to do a callback to Hunter S. Thompson's suicide and his suicide note. You know, it's reported that when he died, there was a sheet of new paper in his typewriter with one word on it, counselor. That was, you know, one of his best friends, Oscar Acosta, activist, noted Latino activist, lawyer, journalist, possibly wilder than Hunter S. Thompson himself. You know, Jesus and I joked for years and years and years that he was the Oscar to my Hunter. Gabino Iglesias, who never had the pleasure of meeting Jesus, but who was inspired by Jesus, said the same thing. But what happens in this Dark Horse edition is the font gets fucked up. This was supposed to be like a typewriter font. And then you see this font up here? This paragraph was supposed to revert back to this style, but it doesn't. So it looks like our character, Uncle Lano, typed this whole thing out. He did not. That was not something we were able to get corrected until future editions. A lot of readers, even the ones who loved this, didn't understand the ending because of that font change. And that is unfortunate. Talk about flashbacks to the ending of The Rising. The next edition to come out was from Thunderstorm Books. And dig this cover, right? My God, look at that. Can you guess who that was? I bet you can. If you can't, we're going to get to it in a minute. Check out these signature sheets. There's Nick and I. Just great sig sheets. Did you figure out who did that cover art yet? Damned Highway, Fear and Loathing in Arkham, A Savage Journey into the Heart of the American Nightmare and Back Again by Uncle Lano with Nick Mamatas and Brian Keene. That's right. That cover art was by Gak. This was the last thing Gak and I ever did together. You know, we started out all the way back with 4x4, folks. Do you remember that? Our second video? Gak and I worked together so many times. And I should point out, 4x4 wasn't the first time we worked together. We worked together on a number of short stories during our days getting published in zines and very small press anthologies. Gak was truly there from the beginning. I met Gak before I met Jesus or Tom Piccirilli or Jeff Cooper or Mike or Mikey or John Urbansick or Nick or any of these people. That's Gak's spine that he did to the book. Gak passed. This was the last thing we ever got to do together, but my God, sweet Jesus and Cthulhu, did he go out in a blaze of glory. Richard Nixon and Cthulhu. Thunderstorm Books also did a lettered edition with a green slipcase. Very fucking cool. This is what that looks like. These are, they're not cloth. They're like cloth embossed with rubber. The texture is amazing. You can hear the sound as you open it. I am Roman numeral Brian Keene. Same sig sheets inside. You can tell I've opened this exactly once in all these years because you can hear the pages crackling. Additional Gak artwork. Look at that. And then there's an edition now through Crossroad Press, Macabre Ink. This is the new paperback and what it looks like. You know, it's never occurred to me to check and see if that font problem got taken care of. Kind of. It's also available in ebook and audiobook. One small note about The Damned Highway. I've been lucky enough to have 2 of my works optioned, produced, and performed on stage in theaters. One of them was Terminal. The other one was Damned Highway. It was a one-man play done by the amazingly talented Mark Mears. The production was going great. He was on tour with it. Then COVID happened, and he had to stop. I really hope that he will get back out on the road one day and do it again. I didn't get to see it. I've watched video of the performances online, but I never got to see it live. Anyway, yeah. This was something good that came out of all that crap there at the end of Phase 2. And it was a nice way to sort of solidify that Phase 3 was happening, that I wasn't going anywhere, that I wasn't done, that they hadn't beaten me, that I still had more stories to tell. So yeah, I will always have much love for this book. Nick, if you're watching, much love for you. And much love to the readers who have enjoyed this over the years. And of course, much love for Hunter S. Thompson. As much as Stephen King, he's an influence on me. Would not be doing this without that influence. Nothing but love. All right. Hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you enjoyed the conspiracy rabbit hole this book will send you down. Speaking of conspiracies, next up on the Hit Parade, next time on Secret Histories, we're going to talk about a conspiracy of one. We'll see you then. Peace.